Well, folks, yeah, we got a bit of a late publish today, but that's because I've been just pouring over a bunch of brand new patents from Nintendo about Nintendo Switch 2. Not just one, but 4 patents. And you'll see when we look at them why they are literally all about Nintendo Switch 2 and some new information we actually learned from this, including confirmed features now for the brand new Joy-Con or whatever Nintendo calls them, along with just so much more stuff going on. There's so much going on in these patents. It's better that I just kind of dive into them while giving credit to where I first saw them and all that. But we also have some information as well on games coming to Nintendo Switch 2 and a fun little note about just how well Nintendo's doing as a company, as they have now reached record levels with their stock evaluation, meaning Nintendo is worth more money right now as I'm talking than they've ever been worth in company history, and have in fact entered a top 10 that they should be very happy to be part of. Now, before we dive in, I want to remind you we're all on our road to 150,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying all these updates on Switch 2, you're going to want to subscribe right here to get more of them. First off, let's head on over to X, where we saw this post by Wario64 saying Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Con patent includes illustrations for the mouse functionality. And we're going to take another look at these illustrations and more. But these are the ones that he put up here. And you can clearly see that these are the Switch 2 Joy-Con, just missing the square button on them. Obviously, that could have been added at a later date than when these were originally filed. But yeah, you can see the mouse functionality. You can see it used with the Joy-Con in the left hand. You can see this using dual mouse functionality. And look, these patents are all out of Japan, so everything's in Japanese. So we're reliant on a lot of stuff. As an example, this stuff here is a translation. And all we get out of this is just confirmation that, yes, indeed, there is mouse functionality. And that is really cool that, yes, we now have that confirmed. It's not speculation. It's not whatever. There's actually just mouse functionality in the system. So when we go to look at the patents, and we got 4 of them to look at, we're mostly going to look at the images, but then we have some explainer material from some of the fine folks over at Family Boards as well that detail out some of this stuff. But I'm going to give some initial thoughts. This is the first patent that we were looking at, and you can see all these additional images that weren't part of the post. So you can see this here. Obviously, it's just, look, it's a look at the Joy-Con, the right one without the square button. And it looks pretty similar to the design we saw in Nintendo's reveal. As we keep going through here, you can see some different mechanisms here. All of this, by the way, seems to confirm that, yes, the shoulder buttons are indeed digital buttons and not analog. Kind of unfortunate, but, you know, we see our first look at what is the Switch 2 tablet. Not a whole lot to really glean from that tablet other than what we've already seen from Nintendo. And this one's quite interesting. You can see like the magnets go where the SL and SR buttons are, and then the connection point in the middle. Something we kind of figured already, but it's nice to see it in a patent. There's your connection point, your physical connection point between the Joy-Cons and the obviously the new tablet. And this is a really cool cross-section of what that connection looks like and how sturdy it is. This is obviously a very complex design, but one Nintendo has thoroughly vetted, and this looks really, really good. So glad to see that there's been this attention to detail. Not a surprise for Nintendo. Obviously, this is where you push in that extra button, and that pops out the mechanism to disconnect it from whatever your Joy-Cons are connected to. Obviously, for most of the time, it'll be the Switch, but if there's accessories and stuff, that'll be how you remove it. Again, more looks at the shoulder buttons and the mechanisms behind them that are very similar to the way Switch 1 had some of this stuff set up. And again, this is all just confirming things that we sort of presumed about the system, but we didn't know 100% for sure. Even the mouse functionality was still speculation and rumor rather than fact, but this obviously now basically makes this fact, showing dual Joy-Con use there, reconnected to the system. Now, this is one people have looked at. This is probably not an actual like new Pro controller or anything. This is looking at the mouse functionality as it shows it in this. This is probably one of those things where they're just patenting the overall concept of what they're doing, so people can't copy it even in this format. I highly doubt we're looking at a new Pro controller. I've seen some people speculate on that, but I don't think that's to be the case. Now, I said this is one of 4 patents. This is the other one that popped up here. And you see much bigger look at the actual console here. And we do learn something new about the console. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, you can see here again, all it's missing is that square button on these design drawings. You can see, it being used in different configurations, all the different ways that you can use things. You're seeing a little bit of how the internals are designed. And hey, look at this. This matches that motherboard design that we had already previously seen. Kind of funny how the patents are lining up. with some of the leaks out there. Anyways, you can see that this is clearly where the fan housing is. There's your battery compartment. All of this looks pretty much exactly like what we were seeing already on the leaks, the motherboard leaks and everything. So everything's really lining up. Here's your rail system with your protrusion there, and that's its own separate board, which isn't too surprising. Makes it easy for repair purposes. Not a whole lot of like crazy functionality here. I'm not even sure what this is alluded to. It might be one of these internal mechanisms. But I do find a lot of this just to be awesome, that we're seeing these deep dive looks as we go through all these images. This is a cross section, a fairly big cross section here of the actual rail system and how it's designed. I find that to be really fascinating. You see Nintendo puts a lot of thought into these designs. They don't just willy-nilly toss this stuff together. And here you're looking at some of the pins, how some of these mechanisms work. This is kind of cool, looking at how when you press the button in, it rotates this little arm here, and that's what pushes the stick out. So it's a fully mechanical mechanism. There's nothing digital about it. It doesn't require any electricity. It's just, hey, you push on the button, it pushes the pin out. Pretty cool. You can kind of see how that works here, where you depress this in, pin, rotates, pushes pin out. Pretty basic in how it works, but whatever gets the job done, right? Why make things more complex than they need to be? You can also see, position to possibly put the Joy-Con rail in, where maybe you hook the bottom first and then maybe push it in, or maybe that's just how you take it off. Again, another cross-section at the mechanisms and how all this stuff kind of functions. Again, a lot of this is pretty much functioning the way that we thought it would, but it is really interesting. And you can see here clearly where they push the button in and then it detaches from the top section first. That's clearly the intended way to detach the controllers. Sure, you could probably physically pull on them hard and they will detach, but this just gives another look at the mouse stuff. And again, a lot of really fascinating things in here. This is a look at the magnetic field and how that all is. So just a lot of great stuff here. Again, we have another patent we need to sort through. Again, I told you there's 4 of these in total, but we got some exact information from Family Boards. But I want to make sure we go through all the images so you guys can take a look. All this will be linked in the description, by the way. Again, we're seeing a lot more cross sections. Again, all these patents serve slightly different purposes to show off slightly different things, even if some of the images are the same. It's still really important for patenting reasons to have different functionality explained with different looking patents and all of that. One of these patents actually has something that looks like a brand new thing being added. And I believe it's in this final patent we're going to look at, a potential charging stand. And it's very different from the ones that we're accustomed to seeing with Switch. So here's a look at some of the rail systems and the LED lights for controllers. All right, so as we get into this, and yes, there's a lot, and this is just the images. We're not even getting into the text of everything. Towards the end of these images, you're going to see what looks like a new accessory for, what the heck is that? Oh, this is the strap. So this is your strap on your Joy-Con rail. So that's pretty cool. What we learned about these rails is they don't actually have any magnets in them. They actually hook on, and you use a button to release it. It's quite interesting. We'll get into that in a bit. But I want to show you guys something that looks completely new and we have not seen before that gets right here. Here it is. This bad boy right here. This looks like, you see a USB-C in. This could be a charging stand, a separate accessory to charge your Joy-Con. So again, that is something we haven't seen before, and I do find really, really interesting. And we got to dive into some of this additional information. First thing I want to dive into is there's been concern over the connection points being able to snap off. There was an image that went around concerned about this after the official reveal. Well, due to these patents, we now know that that's really not possible to happen. Darth Diablo actually created this image here. And as we look here, you can kind of see how the pins and how everything kind of seeds in there. It makes it so you can't really snap it off. The way that the connection point works is it's nearly impossible to actually snap off this mechanism in the middle like you want. Obviously, if anyone ever uses enough force, you can always force a breakage to happen, but it's going to be very difficult. They put a lot of design elements into this to prevent this from being a thing that happens. So I just wanted to point that out, that look, that concern was always silly, but now we have some direct evidence via the patents on just how silly it is. Now we get into some interesting observations over here by this Gimar SGI person, because one of the patents, it has how all these things connect to the CPU, which is interesting. But here's what we learned about this: the Switch 2 console. This is about the console itself, the tablet. It has an ambient light sensor, which isn't surprising. That's the Switch 1 has that. A lot of our phones have, a lot of devices have that. Has a touch display. Okay, no shocker, but this is what's cool. It has a 9-axis motion sensor, which is like the Wii U gamepad. And no, the Switch does not have 9-axis motion sensing. So this has a 3-axis accelerometer, a 3-axis gyroscope, and a 3-axis magnetometer. Now, again, we do not have this on the current Switch. This should create more accurate motion controls when you're using the tablet. So I do find that to be interesting because the gamepad had better motion controls as well and better functionality than the Switch does and the Joy-Cons do. And that's because we know about the Joy-Cons that they don't have 9-axis, they have 6-axis, and that is true for Switch 2. As we look here again by Gimmer SGI showing more of these patents, and the Joy-Con 2 main takeaways are that both Joy-Con 2s have 6-axis motion sensing, which is exactly like the Joy-Con 1. So it doesn't have that last one, it just has the gyroscope and the accelerometer. So that does create less accurate motion controls, but it's more accurate when attached to the tablet. So that's quite interesting. Both the Joy-Con 2 have a mouse sensor in each one, which we already knew. Both the Joy-Con 2 have a notification LED each, and only the right Joy-Con 1 had it in the home button. Now, there's some speculation these LEDs are actually just for the player, like telling you what player number you are. It might not actually be behind the buttons, although maybe they are behind the buttons, and maybe there's additional functionality. There's a lot of debate over the LEDs because they both technically have LEDs, but are they used for anything other than telling you what player you are? I have no idea. Both the Joy-Con 2 have HD rumble, just like the Joy-Con 1. Only the right Joy-Con has the NFC reader, which is exactly like the Joy-Con 1. And then the bottom IR camera is gone. There is no IR camera. I know people speculated on it. It's just the design of the shell. There's no IR camera. Sorry to break that news to some people. We also learned one interesting new thing, and this is coming from FWD over on Familyverse. Says, I apologize for the following points have been discussed earlier. The thread's moving too fast to keep up. Here's how the Joy-Con ejection button works. So it's showing just like how it rotates and pushes it out. We talked about this already, but there's actually some interesting stuff with the Joy-Con straps. Since the Joy-Con strap does not contain any magnets to secure the attachment, an engagement hook 561 is added to the bottom side of the strap, left side of the illustration below. This is the 561 right here. It's this little notch. All right. Hook 561 can prevent the strap from being installed upside down. So you cannot install the straps in the wrong orientation. So that's important. It also requires the strap to be installed at the correct angle. So you're going to hook it on the bottom and then snap it in. Like here, you can see the hook part. It hooks in and then you snap it in. So that's how that mechanism works, since it doesn't rely on magnets. And then to remove the strap, the same ejection button rod described above is used to push out the strap. You can see it being pushed right here. So you would eject it the same way you would from the Switch. However, perhaps after some extensive testing, Nintendo decided that the above attachment mechanism isn't secure enough, so they added a second embodiment. And that is where you see this thing here at the bottom, or at the top of the strap going to be, that creates a second like hook-in mechanism. Key 662 is used to secure the strap, and push the button 661 is used to both secure and release it. So this little button we saw in the render, it looks like Nintendo didn't think it was secure enough. Maybe it was still falling off, so they added an extra measure. So now you might have to hit 2 buttons to let go of it. Who knows? But it's quite interesting that we at least have that information. Now we got to get into the game stuff. All right. I said there were some game rumors and stuff in here, and we have it. And the updates over here at this website: rumor Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and Rebirth coming to Xbox X and S in 25-26, prioritized over Switch 2. Wait, what's going on? This all comes from Nate the Hate. So Nate the Hate, aka Nate Drake, claimed that Final Fantasy 16 was once locked in to come to Xbox Series X and S. Today he shared an update on this. All right. So he made 3 consecutive posts earlier on Reset Era about the Xbox Game Studios. First, he answered someone asking about more Square Enix games coming to Xbox, and he said, barring any late changes, Final Fantasy 16 announcement and release for Xbox will be soon. No, not in the immediate future, but it should release by/around the mid to first half of 2025, around spring, basically. Nate then answered an inquiry about Final Fantasy 7 Remake coming this year. Final Fantasy 7 Remake is planned for later this year. Rebirth is 2026. Announcement timing is only unknown, but I'd imagine all 3 16, 7, and Rebirth will be announced at the same time for maximum impact. Now, this is the part that matters for us. Finally, Nate made a surprising revelation about how the new Xbox releases relate to the Switch 2. Final Fantasy 16 is not planned for Switch 2 currently. A decision was made to prioritize Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Rebirth. Okay, so Final Fantasy 16 to me isn't that important. I ended up not liking it nearly as much as 7 Remake and Rebirth. So to me, personally, I like 7 Remake and Rebirth being the priority for Switch 2 over 16. And again, should be coming later this year for Nintendo Switch 2, and then obviously Rebirth next year. Maybe 16 comes down the line, and I'm not opposed to it being there. I know some of you really do love 16. I wasn't a big fan of it, especially coming off of 7 Remake and then playing Rebirth now. I just feel like those are just superior games, but take that for what you will. Look, Square Enix, we know wants to bring almost everything multi-plat. I just, 16, I don't know if sales can really be recovered for that, in my opinion, but that's okay because Nintendo is sitting really pretty, yeah, let's just take a look at this. So this is their market cap from 2009 to 2025. And you can see today, it's the highest it's ever been at 84.91 billion. And this is in USD. So we're not talking like yen conversions. This is the market cap in USD. It is a 22.7% higher than at this point last year. And it's the highest it's ever been. Nintendo's never been valued as high. Even in 2020 during the pandemic, it hit 76. They've just never been this high. And so this is pretty wild, obviously, looking at this. It makes it the world's 215th most valuable company by market cap. But what's interesting is it actually enters the top 10 in Japan for market cap, which for a company that literally only makes video games, because all the other 9 companies in the top 10 are like multifaceted and do many different industries. Nintendo is just a video game company. I know they dabble in the movies and they have the theme parks, but those are all still just based around their video games, right? So it's all coming back to this video game core. Their market cap is awesome. Like, this is great. This now makes them worth more than what Activision Blizzard King sold for to Microsoft. So this would actually be a really expensive purchase for Microsoft if they tried to buy them right now. They're obviously not. Nintendo's obviously not for sale. They're a publicly traded company. You can obviously buy some stock if you want. But pretty crazy that, like, even though the financial report showed a lot of downtrends and 41% down year over year, look, investors believe in the Switch 2 so much, and so does Nintendo. They might have as much as 20 to 24 million Switch 2s ready to go for the first year. Yeah, investors are pretty excited. Naturally, April 2nd is probably only going to drive the hype even higher, because if we think about it, Nintendo hasn't really shown us games. Like, we saw Mario Kart, whatever, if it's 9 or whatever they call it. We saw Mario Kart, but a lot of difference seeing Mario Kart versus, like, seeing Mario Kart, right? We kind of just got glimpses. They haven't really shown off the games. So April 2nd, I think, might make the market cap go even higher. So I'm not saying this is a great time to invest in Nintendo. In fact, it might not be because the market cap is so high. You usually want to get in at a low, not a high, but it depends. How much higher do you think it's going to go? Is Nintendo going to be worth over 100 billion USD someday? Maybe they're on their way. Remember, there's a Mario movie coming, a Zelda movie as well. Those are both probably billion-dollar movie franchises. And obviously, theme parks opening up, merchandise, Lego. I don't know. Nintendo's in a good place. They're cooking, everyone. So let me know what you think about all this news down in the comments below. Bit of a beefy one with all those patents, but hopefully you learned something new today about Nintendo Switch 2. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch each and every one of you guys in the next video.